Hello and welcome to the Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Riche of the MHRT Network, and as you can tell, I am not my usual self today. I am currently somewhere just north of a fever of about 100, so that is awesome. I feel spectacular. Let me tell you. I
Sounds like it too.
I feel like an inferno right now. Like my whole body's on fire. So you'll have to excuse the leprosy voice as well as the slightly rosy face. No, I'm not Santa Claus. Not quite a white beard yet. And over here to my left, rather, is Alex Gibbons. You can catch his stuff over on Airhead Addict. Honestly, great content, great articles. And when the NFL regular season is in full go, the fantasy podcast directly after this one here at 9:30 with Coach Defense. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can tell, what? Well, this is weird for a second week in a row. It's okay, DZ. We have Robert here who will fill you in on all things Chargers. Just real quick, Captain, I believe, will be joining us shortly. And as for all of the viewers here joining us live, we have Robert Garcia, who's going to be covering all things Chargers, going from that vantage point there. So DZ, we have someone who is a fellow Chargers fan.
You've got representation now, brother.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're not just going to steamroll over the Chargers anymore. We actually have someone that's going to push back a little bit, and we'll go from there. So we're going to jump right into the show today, and we're going to start off with a recap of the Chiefs game, give our thoughts on what we saw. My thoughts, obviously, of the correct Kelsey brother actually being there at the game. Kissing
Started
babies.
the presidential campaign for him, dude.
Yeah, kissing babies and all those good things.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, you have to give the dude some credit. He was, he was doing all the right things with the fans and stuff that were in the that was really nice to see. Obviously, you guys won. Get you to give a bit of a recap there, Alex. Obviously, being closest to your team.
Thank you, Tyler Bass.
Go from that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously everyone checked it out. The polar opposite of what we thought might happen happened, and that is that the Chiefs offense actually kind of showed up. The Chiefs offense showed up. It looked almost like vintage Chiefs. Or I'd say vintage is in like the last 3 years of Chiefs, where it was like the defense did enough to not ruin the game at the end, but otherwise wasn't really there. And the offense actually, put up some points a little bit and moved the ball with some fluidity throughout the whole game, which was nice to see for the playoffs. Would have liked, I guess glass half full as a Chiefs fan, would have liked to see it like all together in one with a, dominating defensive performance or a little more up to par with where they've been on top of the offense, kind of doing what they did. But you got to give the hats off to the Bills too. I mean, Josh Allen played literally like a perfect football game. It pretty much played out like I thought it would. And I think I said last week that it'd come down to the last possession and probably a battle of the kickers, which is exactly what happened. and Bass going 1 for 3 the week before definitely played a little bit more of a factor than, some thought. But I mean, hell of a game. Like I think it was 50 million plus viewers. So certainly, like we kind of talked about it, it seemed to be very much lived up to the hype of that playoff game of the year atmosphere. Like I said, I think it could have been a totally different game if Bills were fully healthy. Because you can't deny that they weren't a little bit hand-tied on defense with the injuries that they've had throughout the year and just some guys in there. I think me and Coach actually talked about it on that one chipping PI call they gave on Williams, who was like a 4th or 5th round pick. Hell of an athlete, but he's not Matt Milano. and Matt Milano would have been there and would have known not to make that dumbass penalty on a crucial third down. Didn't really matter because McCole Hardman handed it right back to him. But, just little things like that, I think, were the ultimate difference in a game that was essentially perfect across the board. Because, there was I guess Hardman fumbled twice. But, outside of that, it was like really not a whole lot. A pretty clean game. There's no sacks on either side. Allen didn't really have any sort of holding on to the ball issues. Mahomes wasn't throwing picks. So, pretty much kind of was like a prize fight, both teams going back and forth scoring. Like I said, offense, I thought showed some promise. At least it seemed to be more of an all-around unit. Would have liked to see maybe a little bit more in passing, but, it was a cold-ass game in Buffalo and older stadium that I don't think they have some of the same amenities that KC has to combat cold. So seemed to be a little bit of a different vibe. But, got to shout out Valdez Scantling to some degree, I guess. That dude hasn't caught a ball all year, but then somehow makes two of the hardest catches in the game to keep the drive moving. Like, couldn't catch a wide open touchdown to beat Philly in week 14, but somehow snag one that barely fits into a window down the sideline to move the chains. He only had 2 catches for 62 yards, but yeah. But you see what happens with the offense when those drops don't happen, or those drive killing issues don't arise. Kelsey kind of saw a little vintage Kelsey, 5 catches, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. Him and Mahomes actually, for like the LeBron stat of the day, actually broke Brady and Gronk's record for most touchdowns by a QB receiving duo in the playoffs, which is absolutely wild to think about because it's only been 6 years of doing that. And on top of that, Mahomes actually passed Brady for the most playoff wins by a QB before 30. So there's another LeBron stat for you. But all around great game. Pacheco even came to play. Bills seemed to have a little bit tougher time. Actually, he didn't play in the last game. So, that definitely made a difference in just the flow of the game. On top of them just playing relatively clean for the most part and not throwing picks and not putting the defense kind of behind the 8 ball. Offensive line played spectacular, which is something they needed to do for this game. I think Bills were 3rd or 4th in sacks and total pressure, and to give up no sacks and only 2 QB hits the whole game against a line that's got Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, and Von Miller for what that's worth. I thought that was a hell of a performance by him. Like I said, defense came to play when they needed to. They did a much better job at containing the run and James Cook, but definitely saw, and Snead still did great against Diggs, but definitely saw some moments where they couldn't. That's right, Patriot. We're back. But definitely saw some issues with containing Josh Allen in the run, which I'd say is probably my biggest restraint, from leaving this or from that game heading into the Ravens, because obviously Lamar Jackson is Josh Allen on steroids when it comes to QB mobility and moving the ball. So, definitely something that you leave the game with thinking like, oh crap, things could be a little worse this next week. But overall, great outing from KC. Very much playoff game. Came down to the last possession, and just the more composed team found a way to win at the end. Because honestly, I felt that Buffalo it was a little bit of a choke, like Cool Kev said. They seemed to be more preoccupied with making sure Mahomes had as minimal amount of time possible getting the ball back than just putting points on the board. Because I felt like they made it an emphasis to take 5+ minutes off the clock. But then they're like, oh crap, we're 2nd and long now and we're running out of field here. Like, what do we do? And then, they ultimately settled for a field goal and it didn't matter. And I think Chris Long, there's some other guys that kind of had a similar sentiment of it seemed weird that they took that approach to kind of try to eat as much clock as possible. But, that is what it is. So otherwise, like I said, pretty great game all around. One kind of issue, I think, thinking about playing the Ravens next is just how they did against the QB run and kind of keeping the quarterback in the pocket and not letting him manipulate the line of scrimmage, or you kind of move the chains at will. But other than that, this might have been the first time all year we saw the entire Chiefs package show up for a game. So good sight to see heading into 6 straight AFC Championship games. So
got a question for you about McDermott.
I got an answer, maybe.
So at some point, McDermott's going to have to answer for the fact that he's not getting his team to that next step. So for those who are familiar with the Broncos, obviously in the AFC West, we play each other twice a year, so you at least have some familiarity, at least in passing.
Who's that?
I'm looking.
I'm kidding.
I'm looking at McDermott and wondering if he's like John Fox.
Yeah.
Right.
I saw a great analogy.
Like a really good coach, but
yeah,
you need that extra add-on, right?
I saw a good analogy for him was that McDermott and Allen. This might be smug, but hey, we're in the AFC Championship game, so. But McDermott and Allen are like Sloan and Karl Malone, where they, are hella the Utah Jazz in the 90s, like fantastic teams, win all kinds of games, break all these records, but got to run into Michael Jordan every year in the playoffs and never make it past that. And I mean, because Josh Allen is elite of quarterbacks in the league, but he's just not Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't have that one extra
who is
thing.
Though? Who is Patrick Mahomes? I mean, like we try to compare and you mentioned the turnovers, but like the 0 turnovers in the game, but people forget on that last drive, Josh Allen fumbled the ball and it went right through a Chiefs defender. So we're not even having this discussion about Tyler Bass missing it wide right, albeit sorry Bills fans. But I see Cool Kev mentioned in the chat too. He did on 2nd and 9 have Stephon Diggs wide open on a crossing route for a first down, and he goes to the end zone. And I'm watching the game like, what are you doing, man? Like, this is your whole thing is about not letting Mahomes get back on the field, but you're trying to score with 1:40 left. You're going to the end zone, and that right there is what kind of showed me like he wasn't. I personally think Josh Allen, as great of a QB as he is and as amazingly talented as he is, I don't think he will be able to take that team over the hump simply because he turns the ball over too much.
I disagree.
Okay. Why is that?
And here's why. With the right coaching and the right emphasis in his game, you can correct that. Look no further than when they had Dayball there as their offensive coordinator.
When they got rid of Dorsey at midpoint of this year. I mean,
right. Mm-hmm.
But so you remember they get rid of Dorsey and they go on a 5-game winning streak to clinch the division. So it kind of goes a little bit both ways too.
It does, but it depends on how you coach in or out certain things in the game. So I heard there's a great quote. I heard it from Shannon Sharp. I think you're either coaching it or allowing it to happen.
Condoning it, yeah, coaching or condoning it. Yep.
So which one is it? In my opinion, I think Josh Allen right now is being given a little bit more leniency or leeway in his game than he probably should, and I think that there needs to be some pretty hard coaching to kind of gear him in a certain way so he doesn't make some of those poor choices. I mean, I even look at the Broncos' Russell Wilson. Look how absolute hot trash that dude was last year. Okay, like I mean, like steaming pile of cow poop. Like it was bad. Like it was really bad. Like historically bad. Okay, like it cannot be understated. Now, you look at what he did this year. He was still trash. However, his numbers were actually pretty good, and that was because of coaching. Sean Payton did all of the right things to try to play a game of chess to put Russell Wilson in the best possible spot. to do the best he possibly could. And it worked. But the problem is when you have a dude that's like 5'10" on a tall day, you're still going to be limited based on what he can do. Also, that is further highlighted in terms of his limitations in the fact that he does not throw anticipatory throws. He has to see it.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be 5'10" and have the accuracy and quickness of Drew Brees. Another thing to be 5'10" and have to roll out.
And the thing is with Russell is like,
field.
and with Russell now, he's so much older that, I mean, when he was in his Seattle days, those legs were, I mean, not to say he was Lamar or anything, but those legs, you had to account for them. You couldn't go into a game and not plan for, Russell to not possibly run on you. And now that's taken away, obviously the age is, and now it's just the arm. And now it's like you said, you're putting Drew Brees back there with less accuracy, not, the same player that he once was.
Anticipation.
No anticipation. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're taking the trash and you're wrapping it in foil and hoping someone pays top dollar for it.
Yeah.
Hoping somebody says shiny.
Nice and shiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it's a silver bar. But that's exactly my point. And so now on the flip side, Josh Allen has tremendous tools. And I honestly think that those tools they have longevity to them. As an example, and frankly, I actually think Justin Herbert's in the same boat. I think Justin Herbert and Josh Allen, I think Josh Allen has better tools, but I still think that Justin Herbert is in a similar conversation. What they're capable of doing has longevity at the NFL level. Josh Allen will not be able to run like a moose through people like he does now. Okay. Like he's going to get old and that he won't be able to do that. That being said, the dude can still throw the entire length of a football field. Okay.
Can swing it.
Like that's not going away.
I mean, that touchdown he threw to Shakir, there's probably only three. Mahomes, Herbert, and Allen are probably the only three QBs that can even make that throw.
Or that throw to Diggs, that Diggs dropped. That was like a 60-yard bomb on a rope. And Diggs that was another thing, too, about the Bills. Do you think they're bringing Stephon back?
Nah, he's done.
I think he's out of there. And if he's out of there,
there's going to be some significant changes with Buffalo because, I mean, you have to. So, to answer your question, I think McDermott I think he's going to enter this next year on the hot seat. I mean, it's hard to fire a guy that's literally gotten you to where you're, pretty close to your ultimate goal, but coming up short. But I do see kind of a little bit of an overhaul, moving Diggs, Gabe Davis is a free agent, probably get rid of some of the aging vets on defense. Josh Allen's massive contract kicks in this next year. So their highly competitive window is somewhat closed, and then you're going to have to see him, make more finessing moves and make sacrifices like the Chiefs had to make, and moving on from Tyreek and ultimately probably moving on from Chris Jones or Snead at the end of this year, just because you're going to have to account for the fat cap hit that your QB has and work around it. And I think that's where you see the difference in KC and teams like Buffalo is, Reed is very much the championship pedigree coach that's able to, get teams through those tough situations and overcome things like that. Whereas McDermott just doesn't seem to have that final trait needed to get his team over that perennial hump. And then, there was that article too that came out earlier this year. I think it was on The Athletic. And who knows how much of it's actually true, but it was like the one talking to former coaches and players basically saying that McDermott's, he's always the one that's so worried about what could go wrong in the game and losing the game that his decisions lead to that happening. And I think that was on full display. Like I was getting at with, it seemed like Buffalo was more concerned about not giving Mahomes a minute of time because of that, probably the 13-second game and other things in the past that have happened, that then you get to the moment where you need to move the chains and you see Josh Allen, not hit the check down because he's probably internally worried about moving the ball, and, you see mistakes like that happen. And then, that's what happens. It comes down to the kicker having to make a 45-yard field goal when he was 1-3 the week prior. That's not good odds. So, yeah,
No,
I think McDermott's definitely on the hot seat coming into this next year.
I agree.
Sure.
I agree. I just want to give a shout out to all the folks that are in and out of the chat here. Thank you for joining the show. If you have questions you'd like us to bring up with Alex, or just comments on the Chiefs game that happened this past week, drop those down in the chat, and we will pull them up on screen and get them answered. And Captain, now that you are here with us, any comments other than you hope that the Chiefs get eliminated this next week?
Yeah, I mean, that's the first one.
Okay.
They're with you, Captain, on that.
That's the first
That's
one.
the second one.
Well, actually, yeah, that'll be 1, 2, and 3. Let me get to comment 4 then.
Yeah.
I called it. I said I hate to call it. It makes me throw up in my mouth. But I called it. I said Chiefs are going to beat the Bills because the Chiefs got their number. And
yeah,
I believe it's on tape somewhere. I know it's on tape at NFL Nation Live, which can be seen, by the way, on Captain Jack's channel. I'll just do my own segue. 6 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Pacific, here on the Captain Jack channel. Great show with the Hall of Famer Wayne Violator Mabry and Ref Guru, the retired NFL official. So come on in, and during the regular season, when you want to know who's going to screw me this way on the Zebra crew, we can answer that for. Actually, I say the royal we, because Ref can answer that for you, because I if you got John Hussey like he was this weekend, John did a game, you were screwed. And I think Hussey was actually in the Buffalo Chiefs game. Wasn't he your white hat?
Yeah, I believe so.
He sucks. And
they all do, one way or the other.
Yeah, and Garcia smiling. By the way, welcome in, you bastard. I mean, you got bad football teams.
Yeah, okay. We should have warned you. This is Cap.
Oh, yeah, John,
this is mine.
Joe. I trust me. I haven't even begun to get into your ass, young lad. We were talking about John Hussey. John Hussey was the official during the Chargers-Raiders game this year out in L.A., where he basically did everything but give Justin Herbert fellatio on the field. Okay, just saying, because we went
did everything
Hussey
but gargle Herbert.
Oh my God! I think he probably when they had the picture of him with Herbert out during the game, and he has his hands on his back, and he's basically whispering in his ear, "I got you, baby. After I'm going to take every drop you got too," because that's what was happening.
Well, you guys made up for it in the second game, blowing us out 63 to whatever it was.
It was 63-21. Not that 21. I remember that score. And I was there to witness it in all its glory, wonderfulness. All its glory.
For what it's worth, it's the reason we got Harbaugh and got rid of Telesco. So I thank you for that. I greatly appreciate
you guys
being the
hired
reason.
Telesco.
Yeah. Is Harbaugh official now? Because I've been doing crap.
Yeah, it's official.
Okay.
5-year deal. We don't know the money on it yet, but yeah, it's official.
Well, I will say one positive thing about the Spanos family is that they finally reached in their pocket.
Tell me about it.
Okay, ignore. I don't know who the hell these spam calls are. Apologies. They finally reached in their pocket for a good coach. They haven't done it since Krappenheimer was their coach.
Hey! We do not diss Marty like that. All right, Marty is a god amongst us.
Talking about Chiefs coach Marty.
You know what, buddy? Right here on him. Okay. There you go. Okay.
With the pythons out too.
Hey,
we're gonna see you Monday night at Raw.
Sun's out, comes out, baby. There you go. Hey, not bad for an old dude. I mean, I got some decent size for an old guy, and it's just that this used to be up here. Now it's actually just gone down here. but they finally got a real coach, and I will give them that. But the problem is that they, no matter what, the team has to perform, and even when the team performed under Krappenheimer, and I'm cleaning that up. I'm cleaning that up because I normally do take the easy one on Schottenheimer's name. It's too easy, but it's like I'm trying to keep it on a PG level. Yeah, I got my Mundungus, baby. Woo! There you go. But I give you that. But here's the funny thing, is that now we have the trifecta of fantastic coaches in the AFC West. Okay,
minus Pierce.
Wait a second, motherfucker. I'm going to drop it right there. Okay. Okay. We have the trifecta of big name coaches. Okay. And I apologize for the F-bomb, but that tweaked me. Okay. We have Andy Walrus Reed, who never met a burger he didn't like up in Kansas City. Okay. We got Sean Payton, who I still has a great coach.
It's a great bounty program.
Right. But still has not won anything without a quarterback by the name of Drew Brees. We got a coach over here who's fresh off the, well, at least you're not wearing a 50 Who jersey like Coach used to wear. Okay, a 50 Who jersey, and by the way, he'll probably come back to the Raiders on a decent contract this next year.
I don't doubt that, actually.
We got a Harbaugh who's probably overpaid and overpaid.
From what we've had at coaching.
Overpaid. Well, that's because you can overpay him because you've been chinsing on all your other coaches for the last 10 years. They put it in a bank account, and the interest that they made off that bank account on the coaches that they didn't pay was what's paying Harbaugh. That's why they can afford him. Still overpaid. Point being,
coming from a franchise that's paying the coaches $80 million to not coach for him, though.
Well, like I said, no more, no further, because you again, mofo. I'll clean it up a little bit. Okay, with all due respect.
There we go.
With all due respect. Okay. By the way, Garcia, you don't get that one yet. You will.
Gotta earn it.
Well, you gotta earn it. With all due respect, like I said, you have the trifecta of named coaches, but you know what? The coaches don't play. The players play. And with the Raiders finally getting a coach that the players will play for, and a general manager, and I'm kind of, Tedesco, he can draft. I'll give him that.
Can he?
Yes, he can. You might want to go back and look at all of the positive draft picks that he had. He can't pick a coach to save his ass.
This is the only one right here. Keenan Allen in the third round back in 2013. That was the only good pick Telesco had in his decade-long of misery and failure.
So I guess Justin Herbert wasn't a good pick?
Hey, I love Justin Herbert, but he fell to us. As much as nobody wants to admit it, he fell to us. We didn't take Burrow. We didn't take Tua. We were taking Herbert.
Okay. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter who falls. It's who
there you go.
He puts the card in. Okay.
Well, he took Quentin Johnston over. So I don't know if he can really draft.
I will say that
he doesn't want to hear that.
The draft picks that he has over the last 10 years, when you stack them up against what the other folks have had, he's a damn good drafter. Now, again, that's a combination of probably having, hey, Ryan, to be determined. Okay. I wanted Dodds. I wanted Dodds to be in with Kelly, but we'll see. Kelly's not out of the office yet, so he's still there. Okay, so at least he's still going to be in for the Raiders. But I think the main reason why he was picked up was the fact is that Mark Davis figured out that the last few times that he's had general managers, they were inexperienced or is no experienced. They didn't really do a lot. And he didn't want to pair a inexperienced general manager with a rookie head coach, even though he has his year of propping up. We'll see. But at least the guy has experience. I will give him that. He has experience. He's got 10 years of experience. And I will say,
hey, and I mean, for better or worse, he's constructed playoff contention rosters.
Exactly.
Just riddled with injuries. I mean, it's not like he has
horrible
talent
coaching
on the field. Yeah.
And horrible coaching. Great rosters.
He's made
horrible coaching and
great
injuries.
contracts. J.C. Jackson signing him to that big contract that worked out really well.
Yeah. If you guys didn't do it, someone else
letting go of Uchenna Nwosu in the offseason, letting go of Drew Tranquil. I mean, man, he can't pick him. He just can't keep him. He'll just let him leave.
Well, and again, that'd be a problem that I'd like to have. Okay, that'd be a problem I'd like to have. At least get us there first. Let's get a roster, and right now. We have a defense as of right now. I don't know if Graham's going to take the job up in Seattle, because it's a possibility that we're going to lose our defensive coordinator, which is one of the main reasons why, we had the year that we had this year. But I thank Cool Kev. Thank you for saying that. Please get Cool Kev's last comment in.
Blow it up. Oh.
And he's just going to run you into the ground.
I don't know about that.
We'll see.
We'll see. This is the big unknown. This is the big unknown. Like I said, we've got 3 head coaches, and pretty much all of them are the head coach / GM of their franchises. They have all the power,
right?
And good or bad, it's going to be either good or bad. So we'll see. If Pierce can get the people that play for him like he did, and that we have an offense that comes in that's not a bubblegum and rubber band offense like they had with throwing out the
Derek Carr
2.0. No, you're a smart mother. I'm trying not to.
He looks just like him.
I'm trying not
to. Put him side by side.
No, it's Favre from the cop show. It's not the
Favre.
Okay, it's Favre. Yeah, the other guy. But if we get a real offensive coordinator, and that's going to be the decision that's going to see where the Raiders are going to either go up or down. 2 decisions: who they bring in as the OC. And the second one is, do we keep Patrick Graham as the defensive coordinator? Because I want to keep him, obviously, because he's done so much with that team. But either this year or next year, he's going to be tagged for a head coaching job based upon what he did with the defense with the Raiders this year. He's due, and I think that he'll be a fine head. He was like, I bet you he'll do a better job than what Wilkes did when given the opportunity that he did. But it's something similar. And I've been flapping my guns for a while. By the way, I'm sure you told dead battery. That it was at a gas
recharged.
Station. No. I got a jump at the gas station, went to the immediate parts store that was right down the street. Guy took out the old one, put in a new one, and I am here, albeit late, and I apologize. But I would never deliberately not have a chance to talk about the Smugs.
The Smugs, baby.
Those donkey folks. And you're too young. First off, I want to see a friggin' ID that you're even old enough to be on the fucking stage here. Okay?
Hey man, I'm just happy to be here. We don't gotta show papers or nothing.
That's good. Well, I did hear that you're one.
Said, I am 12.
I am going to say that your one redeeming quality, from what I understand, is that you're a Flyers fan.
Oh yes, sir. And man, it's been a rough couple games, but we've looked better than not to go into hockey, but we've looked way better this year than I ever thought we were going to, and it's been a fun team to watch for sure.
I like the we because dude, I saw the last 2 Stanley Cups that were in Philadelphia. I have a button that has Benjamin Franklin with a hockey stick and the Betsy Ross flag with the expression "hat trick in '76." I was there. And I'm still waiting on that hat trick. But enough of me. I'll get on you another time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, young bastard. And you're going to take it from me too. So welcome in.
So, so, Captain, you made a few interesting points. So, for example, we do have 3 coaches that are kind of de facto leaders on their team in the division. Now, that puts I kind of want to go through the Raiders kind of position by position. I mean, you absolutely made the right choice in your head coach given what he did this year, and I think that's just correct. So good job. Now, what I'm concerned with is Telesco. And the reason why I'm concerned with Telesco is he hasn't shown that he has drafting vision. And what I mean by that is he's not building for a team. He's not building for a scheme or any kind of navigable path forward. And what I ultimately mean by that is, for example, we don't know who your OC is going to be, right? Because we haven't landed that. We haven't gone down that far into the depths of the coaching staff yet for the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, Telesco has not shown so far in his tenure with the Chargers that regardless of the changes that have occurred at head coach or offensive coordinator, that he is capable of putting players on the field that match the scheme and or the vision fully. I'm not saying he hasn't drafted okay or well in certain instances. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, holistically speaking, drafting the right guys for the right scheme at the right time. As an example, if you run an outside zone scheme, you're going to want more mobility from your guards, but you're also going to want them to be able to move guys off the ball. Well, they had an outside zone scheme at one point. They didn't draft the right type of guards for that scheme when they had that scheme in play. That's a problem. The Raiders are at a point now where you have a choice to make. You either build your roster and then trade them picks for a quarterback in a couple of years, or you trade up to try to get the guy that you want at quarterback, because I'm not convinced that AOC4 is the guy.
And thank you for saying it like that, because on my show, AOC is the skinny bitch in New York, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you kowtowing to my what I say. By the way, Rob, you'll get that from me. It's 50 who. AOC4 is our quarterback, because again, AOC is the skinny Democratic bitch in New York, and I appreciate you, Richie. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you made my thing on that one.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
So you got AOC4, who I think he's gonna make a great backup. Actually, if I'm gonna be honest, I if you want my honest opinion, I think he has the long-term potential of kind of being that kind of staple perennial backup on your team. And
maybe Case Keenum.
Yeah, like a guy like that, and say,
Chase
hey,
Daniel.
We're gonna pay you like a long-term, mid-level, couple $1 million a year kind of thing. Stay here for a bunch of years after the rookie deal's over, but then we want our guy. Like, we want to go get the guy. And if that guy gets hurt, because almost all quarterbacks get hurt between 1 or 2 games a year, then you're dealing with someone who's going to be with you long term. And I think that's a smart move.
Yeah.
But the problem is Telesco has not shown that he can consistently draft the right guys for the scheme that is put before him. That would be my concern. And
I want to touch on what Patriots said there too. That's Telesco's biggest obstacle right there, is the later round depth draft pieces, because he can pick in rounds 1 through 3 with the high talent when it's there, no problem. Derwin falls to him, Slater falls to him, absolutely. But as soon as he gets into those rounds of, you got to start looking for actual, talent, actually start digging deep and doing your research on these guys. I feel like he just, I don't know if he puts way too much emphasis in the first 2 days of the draft, and then just kind of like, whatever is there, what happens. But you look at, and I know 7th round picks are not supposed to be game changers or whatever, but Isaiah Pacheco is a 7th round pick. Brock
Pacheco,
Purdy,
7th-round
perfect.
pick.
Yep, Pacheco's a 7th-round pick. And who did we take with our 7th-round pick this year? We took Max Duggan from TCU. For what? And then you waive him at the start of the season before training camp. So I get a 7th-round pick isn't valuable, but you essentially just wasted it. Like he didn't even make the team. So what is that? I agree with you, Rich. He has no
I'm going to push
vision.
back on that. 7th round and undrafted free agents are incredibly valuable for your team. They're cheap players, and when you draft, and you get them the right,
they're valuable when they perform.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
May I please?
Go ahead.
Not that I don't take up a lot of air and airtime. The Raiders have had a bad habit of getting their 4th through 7th round quite well, and the undrafted free agents. We've been good at that. The problem with the Raiders is we can't draft for shit in the rounds 1, 2, 3, and that is where you build most of your your star leadership is rounds 1 through 3. So this is why, and here's my clincher here, okay? And you notice that Champ Kelly did not leave the building. You notice that Champ Kelly was in on the head coaching hire before they brought in the GM. Champ Kelly was the interim GM in Titiller? Titty? He was the titty. No, however you say the title, titular. I think that's how it is. Titular title, whatever it is, right? But he knows the team, and he knew the team a lot better than friggin' Ziegler did, and he's still in the building. And if you go by what the Raiders have done in the later rounds, a lot of that was on him.
Yeah.
So if he still stays there, then you got a guy that can draft well in the first 3 rounds. Even if they fall to you, it's better to at least get the pick right.
Get the maximum value.
And not F it up. Kind of like, okay, Fabian Washington or Aaron Rodgers. Oh, okay, we'll take Fabian Washington. Okay. And I'm just saying this, okay? Now, granted, this has been a long time ago, but the Raiders have always seemed to up their first 3 rounds. I'd like to at least get a guy that at least knows what he's talking about in the first 3 rounds, and then still have somebody in there that can help him out for the later rounds. And what I also know is that the Raiders, as of right now, there hasn't been a change in the scouting. So and we'll see about that, because normally the scouts stay with you up to about when the draft starts, and then when there's a new regime, they get handed their pink slips. We'll see where it is. And like I said, Ruggs over Lamb.
That wasn't a bad pick. That was just...
and again, I still think Henry Ruggs could have been the guy had he figured out that nothing good happens after 2 o'clock and 200 miles an hour. And that's
dumb choice.
Stupid. And it's unfortunate that lives were lost because of his stupidity. Okay, the pick itself was a good pick.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
I recall Henry Ruggs the last time, other than Christmas. I like to throw that in there. The last time that the Raiders won in Kansas City, other than was last Christmas, was when Henry Ruggs ran a nice pattern and beat the Chiefs in Kansas City. And then, of course, Gruden and all of his splendor said, well, let's roll the buses. Let's roll the buses around Arrowhead. Stupid! That notwithstanding, but Henry Ruggs was a good part of that offense. Last time we actually had an offense. But we will see. I like the fact that Kelly's still there. If the Raiders get rid of Kelly, then we got an issue.
Yeah.
Then we got an issue. So we'll see.
I think for the Raiders, though, like you said earlier, Cap, I mean, that was almost the hire that you had to make the responsible decision with changing the landscape of the franchise, because you can't hire an inexperienced head coach and an inexperienced GM and expect them to just construct this roster from nowhere. And I don't know the other candidates out there, but I would imagine Telesco is probably the only one with significant experience in that role. So it made the most sense because it was either you could go and experience a GM if you have an experienced head coach that's been there and gone through it and knows what he wants and knows how to evaluate and can show that person kind of how they want things, but you can't do both. So, I mean, that for better or worse, kind of the only choice the Raiders had without making the wrong one. And unfortunately, as a Chiefs fan, I'd say both the Raiders and the Chargers, I think, made the correct choice in who to hire and bring in. I say unfortunately because it's just going to make things way more competitive than it already is. But it's definitely an exciting time, I'd say, across the whole division, just because you didn't see, I was worried the Raiders would somehow swoop in and just hire Belichick because of their Davis.
Watch your mouth.
Well, I know it didn't happen.
Mouth.
Hey, this is a what-if multiverse thing here, but I'm just saying. I thought that would be what happened because Davis always seemed to chase the Patriot way, and that would have been the wrong choice. But it's good to see them not do that.
It's out of the building.
And then Alex, didn't double down.
It's gone.
And made sure that he got Pierce, an experienced person, to help with the roster construction. And yeah, it's like I said, I think things are trending in the right direction on both. Because even I don't think the Chargers hired a GM yet, or no?
Nah, they I think they just brought in somebody.
They hired Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah. No, the Chargers are bringing in Joe Ortiz for a second in-person GM interview.
But see, but the Chargers, right? Like at least
That's from the Ravens.
Harbaugh's not like uberly experienced in NFL, but he's definitely rebuilt a roster and turned them into a Super Bowl contender. So, I mean, now that they went the experience route there, they can go with someone who's like the up-and-comer, like the Titans took the guy from San Fran, or there's always someone in the Chiefs front office that's tossed around it, and they can make that kind of risk because now they know they locked up the experience side, on the head coach. So, like I said, I think both are making the right choices to turn things around, which sucks, but
I didn't want to interject too quickly because I have sometimes. And by the way, Garcia, you'll figure this out as well, kid. I still want to see some ID for you, like you're 12 fucking years old. Anyway, I'm feeling it. I'm sorry.
That battery got you loose.
I'm and I ate no alcohol like normal. Okay. I don't know if it's been said, but did anybody discuss the fact that there is that it's been fancied about that Marvin Lewis is going to be coming in to help Antonio Pierce, that Tom Coughlin is expected to come in and be an addition to the staff as well? You got Marvin Lewis.
That's pretty good.
Who's a damn good coach. You got Tom Coughlin, who's won a couple Super Bowls. Although
he did kind of derail Jacksonville for a couple years.
Yes, he did.
That was Bortles more than anything.
Yes, he did. Yeah. Well, hey, thank God for Bortles, because if it wasn't for Bortles, 50 Who wouldn't have wound up with the Raiders and eventually over to you guys.
That is true.
Sorry. So if it wasn't for Bortles out of UCF, shut up, Garcia. That's a good thing, okay? Anyway, but if Coughlin comes in there and if Marvin Lewis comes in there, and again, an OC to be determined, and hopefully they don't make a bad choice on the OC. That's what I'm worried about, is a bad choice on the OC.
Would you want to bring in Kingsbury? Kingsbury
doesn't. Kingsbury wouldn't be.
He's interviewing for Pittsburgh now, I think.
Well, Kingsbury's been around. Hey, it sounds like, obviously, she gets around. Woo! Kingsbury gets around. He's gonna be wind up somewhere. Where's Kellen Moore during all of this?
He's still with the Chargers, as far as I'm concerned. We haven't. Well, he got blocked from an interview. I believe it was the Bears, if I'm not mistaken. So because they were trying to interview him for their offensive coordinator job, but I guess we were, allowed to block that due to the lateral movement there.
Yeah, lateral movement.
Yeah. But I'm if we bring back more, and honestly, I think Harbaugh would be fine with it. I think it's a good idea because you don't want to have Herbert have to learn an entire new offense for the third time in his short 5-year career. So I think keeping more there with that consistency, whether he performed well last year or not, I mean, you could just argue the team itself did not perform at all last year. And I don't think a lot of that was to blame on Moore. I think obviously a lot of that was to certainly blame on Staley. But I think keeping more there with Herbert, I assume Keenan Allen comes back. You're probably going to move on from Mike Will. You're probably going to move on from a lot of your defensive pieces that you signed. Bosa might be gone. Mack might be gone. You're definitely going to have to start. It's going to be a slight rebuild. But I think with Harbaugh, I feel like we're in a much better position just because at least this team will start to develop an identity and a culture in the locker room. And that's something I feel like we haven't had since Marty Schottenheimer was there. And, as much as everybody loves to rain on their parade, they were 14-2 in the AFC Championship game. And if it wasn't for a torn ACL and LT being injured the week prior or during that game.
No. I'm going to stop you there, sir. You had the points all up into that until LaDainian Tomlinson had an injury. There's only one LT. Get it through your friggin' head.
And he does
LT
crack.
played for the friggin' Giants. LaDainian Tomlinson played for the Chargers, the Garglers, or whatever the hell you want to call them, Garcia. And again, I'm being light on you for your first day, and I'm still frothing at the mouth.
All right. When LaDainian Tomlinson got injured,
Thank you, sir.
And Rivers and Phil Riv got injured. Obviously, you lose to Brady, and I don't even want to talk about Marlon McCree, but you fire a head coach after going 14-2. It's no wonder the team has been cursed ever since then.
Stupid.
It was absolutely stupid. And then you look at who he hired. You hired Norv Turner, who did absolutely nothing. You hired Mike McCoy, who gave you one decent year. I think they barely made the wild card. And Anthony Lynn, who, while you had a magic 2018 season with Phil Riv and that game in KC to end however long it was, like 8 seasons or something, we hadn't beaten them. That game was fantastic, and we won the playoff game against rookie Lamar Jackson. Obviously, shocker, lost to Brady again. So I think this team just needs to develop some sort of identity, some culture in the locker room, because it seems like, and this goes back to the Jacksonville game, it seems if, like, as soon as one little thing starts to go wrong, it's just avalanche. It's just plummeting. It's just failure. Nobody can make a kick. Nobody can make a pass. People are fumbling. It is. So I just hope Harbaugh is the one to maybe right the ship and
right the ship. I'm coming to see him. I'm coming to see him.
And you know that Harbaugh is definitely a guy to gets players to play for him. He commands the locker room. Like, he has that presence where, as we saw stuff, and granted, I feel like every time someone gets fired, stuff comes out that's like they lost the locker room. But you could definitely tell with Staley that he had no control over his team. Like, it didn't seem like any of them cared about him. Hell, I think Coach pretty much said it seemed like they just decided to somewhat lay down and stop playing towards the end of the year to get him fired. I mean,
they did it against the Raiders, I think, on purpose.
That is 100% true.
Yeah, I tried to manipulate my words to get around saying that. I didn't want to rise the blood pressure anymore.
They wanted Staley gone.
They did, and it was so loud. And again, Mr. Garcia, I will be kind, sir, Mr. Garcia. At this moment, it was so self-evident there, and I actually remember seeing a really good game. You know, the 2 previous times, I was at both of them. The game that we won, he does. The one where we won to go to the playoffs, and then the year before, where the Chargers came in and played well, and I think they won that game in Vegas because they were up for it. They wanted to beat the Raiders. Okay, that was their sole purpose, was to beat the Raiders that game. Swept us that year.
Which year are you talking about?
Last year.
2 years ago, the final game.
Oh, yeah, last year. No.
Last year. No, well, okay,
ago,
not
right?
just last year. Okay, last year where you guys plummeted and lost to us. I keep forgetting that this is last year. Okay. Anyway, The year after we went to the playoffs by beating you because Staley did something stupid, but you got to figure out which game you're talking about. It said when Staley did something
that's
stupid.
pretty much 75% of it.
Yeah.
You gotta remember which game we're talking about. But the year after that, you swept the Raiders, and you played well in Vegas. And then this past year where I was there, where you lost, what was the score again, Rob? There is a quiz on this. I gave you the number earlier.
63-21.
Thank you, sir. You do pick up on things that I like to lay down for you. Yeah, 63-21. But yeah, and they didn't play at all. And it was fun to watch. But by the same token, it was like pulling wings off of a love bug in Florida. I don't know if you know what love bugs are. They're the crap bugs that get on your car and destroy your paint job. Okay, and they're easy to you just literally catch them up out of the air, and then you get here it is, and you can pull their wings right off.
You're talking about Volkswagen.
But anyway, but Richie knows about Florida, and you know about Florida too. Hey, Garcia, you're going to get down to Florida so I can meet you, because obviously Coach wasn't available for me to meet. Hopefully, I'll meet him one of these days.
You know what? I may have to make a trip down there. We'll see what happens. We'll see what games I have to go out. My goal is to eventually go to every stadium in the league. So I'm sure I'll find my way down there at some point.
So I want to quickly, guys. I want to quickly.
I'm sorry, I'm taking over conversations. I'm pissed off about my battery.
Yeah. So I just want to quickly touch base on one last thing with regards to the Chargers kind of coaching hire. But before I do, I'm just going to make kind of the only real Broncos news that's come out recently is our DB's coach is in a second interview now for a defensive coordinator job with the Patriots. His name is Parker, last name at least. I think he has a reasonable chance of getting it. He's been in that conversation now for a few years. So I do think that it'll be, if it's not this year, it'll be next year. I think he'll be poached and taken. But my question actually for you, Robert, and get the other guys kind of thoughts on this as well. Comment first, then question. I actually don't think Kellen Moore is a good fit for your team. And the reason why is he didn't adapt the offense to fit your players. And the offensive line looked out of place. Yet the year before, they looked actually really good. And so I don't think that he's putting them in the right positions to do well. So my concern is this. If you keep him, I'm concerned that you're going to end up having good linemen that are going to be either cut and they're hard to find. I think you'd be better off moving to a different offensive coordinator, someone that Jim Harbaugh selects, that fits what he wants, that fits maybe a little bit more in line with the players that you have. With that in mind, what are your thoughts on that as a general statement, kind of what you've seen? And frankly, Herbert's shown he's adaptable. So I don't know if I'm necessarily going to buy what you were putting down earlier, the fact that, third offense in 5 years. I think my answer to that is he's kind of shown it doesn't matter. He's still going to do well. So I don't think that matters at all.
Yeah, I definitely the O-line took a huge step backwards this year. Obviously, a big part of that is losing our center, Corey Linsley, the leader of that line. Obviously I wish him all the best, finding out he has that heart issue. If anything, I'm just glad they caught it in time. Glad, something didn't happen before that. So wish him all the best. And, to give even Telesco a little bit of props there, that was a fantastic signing when he did get him. That was pretty much set us up for the last year that we had. He takes Slater in the first round. So he had two solid pieces there that were anchoring that O-line. You saw other pieces come in like Zion Johnson, Trey Pipkins come in and contribute, helping out those other two beasts.
Kid from Georgia, what's his name that you drafted?
Slater.
Yeah.
Saylor. Jamari Saylor. Yes. Yeah. The rookie.
He kind of had a good rookie year, though. That was about it.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't, hopefully he'll flame out now that he's on the Chargers, but he was a damn good pick.
He was a great pick. So and that was the other thing too that confused me with this year about why we weren't starting him at right tackle, which is what he was prolific at last season. Right guard, I believe. So I don't blame Moore in that sense, because that's just something that's uncontrollable. I mean, if there's anybody you're going to lose on your O-line, the two pieces you don't want to lose are your center and your left tackle, or right tackle if your QB's left-handed. But I do think it's going to be – I do think keeping Moore would be solid for us in the sense that now that Staley is gone and the head coach is gone, I think Jim Harbaugh, and what makes him a fantastic coach as well, is that he's going to be able to listen to what Moore wants to do, and he's going to, follow that a little bit, but obviously the buck stops with him. He's going to be the one that makes the final decision. He's going to be the one that, is going to be the final sign off. So I wouldn't really feel, I would like to keep Moore. I know, like you said, Herbert, he's very adaptable. I just think that's a big reason why this team hasn't been able to really take off yet under Herbert, is because they just have no consistency with coaching, with player development, with, those kinds of things in the background. People just look at Herbert's win-loss record and they're like, oh, well, he's a terrible QB. And it's like, well, he's breaking records and doing things that no QB has ever done. And then to counter that, our defensive coordinator, our defensive guru head coach is over here giving up 63 points to AOC. And, and you see how the team performs without Herbert. I mean, I'm not even joking when I say this. This team is probably the worst team in the league this year if Herbert's not there. We saw Easton Stick throw more touchdowns to opposing teams than he did his own in the final 3 weeks of the season. So I do think keeping Moore would be a good thing. If we got rid of him and we took somebody else from Jim Harbaugh's lineage, I got no problem with it. At this point, I'm all in on Harbaugh. Whatever he's, if he wants to hire somebody, if he wants to fire somebody, you make it happen.
You let him.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I stand with it.
Yeah, I would kind of agree with you, Rich, on Kellen Moore a little bit, mainly because I kind of think that Kellen Moore is, quote unquote, the victim of the Sean McVay movement, where everyone wanted to hire the super young, the young, out there pick to bring in and just change the offense. And I'd say that looking at all those all those teams that did that 2-3 years ago, but then also looking at the fact that, Dallas moved on from him and didn't regress in offensive statistics. In fact, I think Dak was better across the board and everything. Can say what you want about what happened when they got to the postseason, but regular season wise, they were statistically better across the board in offense. And then you watch Moore go to the Chargers, and he's supposed to be the saving grace that's going to change the offense to be more adaptable to Herbert and get Herbert way more stats. And then arguably they regressed in almost every area. Austin Eckler wasn't even the same type of guy. You saw, God. And I get that injuries happened and it wasn't the full lineup or, what they planned going into the season. But I think looking at the fact that, he left Dallas, who gave him the chance because of, he was in-house at Dallas. He was a backup QB there for 5+ years. And they're like, dude knows what he's talking about. Let's let him run the offense. And then, 3 years in there, they're like, hey, we might have messed up here. But then the fact that he got that opportunity, you see these other teams are like, well, hell, if Dallas did it, he must, there's got to be something there. Yeah. But then you see him, he goes and finally is given his own, it seemed like he was given his own slate to, run the offense with his vision. And it was, almost a step back everywhere. So I think they probably blocked him interviewing for a lateral move just to see if Harbaugh wanted him, or if him and Harbaugh vibed, or they have similar philosophies, and maybe it had helped Kellen Moore. But I could see them definitely moving on. And kind of like you said, Robert, if you made the move and spent the money for Harbaugh, you're going to get the guys on the staff he wants.
Absolutely.
But I think it would be dumb to let him just go shop around while you're figuring out your head coach, and then say he finds a different job and Harbaugh's like, stuck. Oh, hey, I kind of wanted to work with Kellen. That was part of the reason I wanted to be here. And so I think, now that that's solidified, I bet in the next 2-3 days, you definitely will get more clarity on whether he's around or not.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like I said, I have no, connection to Moore. He hasn't shown me anything. If Herbert goes out there last season, throws for 5,000 and we still have the season we do, then I'm like, all right, it was bad, but Herbert balled out, so clearly something was working. But I agree with that. If we had new vision coming in, and again, we've never hired anybody like Harbaugh that is going to demand that, that respect immediately. He's going to demand that,
finally made an LA move.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very, Dean has always been a uptight, cheap piece of shit, but he went out, he paid the money, he got Harbaugh. So I gotta say, as much as I've always bagged on Dean, he made the right choice. This, as much as anybody wants to argue about it, whatever the money is, this was the right choice to bring him in, because he's going to be the one that sets this culture. I have no idea where it's going to go, but it'll be the first time in probably over a decade that we actually have a built-in culture that this team can hang its hat on.
Yeah, and so with that in mind, let's move on. We've kind of covered the AFC West news. Honestly, last offseason and even this offseason before, there was quite a few changes in our division, and it's looking like this offseason is not disappointing either. Certainly, ebbs and flows are occurring as well. We're going to move on to, Alex, talk about your game against the Dirty Birds, or at least one of the Dirty Birds in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about the AFC Championship game?
Yes, and hopefully the right Kelsey will be there as well.
I'm sure he will be.
Yeah.
Cap, muted.
Aren't you glad I'm muted? Because I was probably I wasn't,
know.
But I was going to say I was probably
yes. I mean,
no. That's what I wanted. Yeah. No, I appreciate that, because thank you, Georgia, for the $5 donation, and appreciate it, because I wanted to make sure that came in. Especially because it's also a slam, and when you can get a $5 donation and a slam, that's
a double whammy. That's a daily double.
A double whammy. Exactly. With all due respect,
Captain, they call that a twofer.
A twofer?
We need a little snare drum. We need a little chime drum sound here.
Yeah, they call that a twofer. So
that's super. And by the way, before we get into it, nobody is mentioning the fact that my hair looks wonderful when I wash it. Screw you guys.
It always looks wonderful
when I wash it.
Captain, there's just some things that one dude is just not meant to say to another dude, and that certainly crosses that threshold for me. So we're just going to leave that there. How's that?
Here you go, my beautiful one. It's like the chicken
looking nice.
Peanuts. Yeah.
Start calling you sunshine.
Sunshine with the gun, baby. Okay, go ahead.
So now that we've got that out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and throw that over to Alex and talk about your upcoming game, things you're looking out for, things you think we should be paying attention to. This is gonna be a close second, I think, in the playoffs. 1A, 1B to the Buffalo game, because the Ravens are legit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Probably, obviously more legit than Buffalo. We're the number one seed and are hosting the AFC Championship game. But yeah, I saw someone comment on, I can't remember what it was, but basically said that this was the matchup everyone wanted in 2019, right, when Lamar was at peak MVP level. And he's arguably back at it, if not better.
Arguably he should be in the MVP conversation this year.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
Who knows where that's at ever, but yeah, it's literally going to be another, like I called the Buffalo game, the heavyweight prize fight. I do expect. I do think that both teams, will be able to move the ball, and we'll see points get on the board, and it'll kind of ultimately. I feel like any game with good elite teams always seems to come down to just who has the ball last and who, doesn't make the mistake. And especially when you're in the playoffs, that kind of always seems to be the flow. Yeah. So be Mahomes' second career road game in Baltimore. They're definitely riding pretty high. I saw a thing. I think they scored 31 plus points in 7 straight games. So definitely balling on offense, and I think have allowed 20 or less in 5 straight. So definitely an elite defense. I'm pretty sure they were the top ranked in almost every category, where KC was 2 or 3. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, pretty evenly matched, match up across the board. Biggest thing, like I kind of talked about earlier, I think will be the Chiefs containing Lamar and not letting him kind of dictate the game flow, where we saw Josh Allen almost do that for 3.5, almost 4 quarters running the ball. He seemed to be able to get 10 yards whenever he needed it by just getting out of the pocket and going. And I think that's ultimately the biggest key here, because if you can contain that, at least, I mean, you're not going to be able to stop it completely because Lamar Jackson's Lamar Jackson. But if you can contain that to some degree to where he gets to a moment where he would naturally be able to escape, but he didn't at some point in the game, then, you create that moment of hesitation. Then that's where the mistakes come. So, I mean, to me, that's the biggest X factor, just with how they played against the Bills and knowing that this team is similarly constructed, similarly elite, if definitely, I'd say better on defense, one in terms of health, but just who's over there. But I mean, if they can play like they did against the Bills and contain the run and contain Lamar better, they're going to be in a good situation, because they're the team that's been there before. They're the team that's been through it. And I think, containing those things puts more pressure on the Ravens and ultimately forces a mistake to happen, or kind of see the game go like it did at the end for Buffalo, where, a team's rushing to try to get something done to change kind of the outcome of the game, and you see something happen like a missed field goal or things like that. That being said, though, Justin Tucker's not missing a field goal, because that dude is automatic. But I mean, yeah, like, I do expect this to be a great game. Now, it could be a really bad game, though, if we see KC's offense come back that is more shades of what it was in the regular season. But I think that I don't think that Baltimore's gone against the defense as good as the Chiefs have been playing here in the recent weeks, and especially the passing defense. I know Mark Andrews might be coming back, which will certainly, change things a bit. But at the same time, their number one weapon is rookie Zay Flowers, which he's definitely an electric player, and he's been pretty electric all year. But at the end of the day, he is a rookie in the playoffs. And if you're talking about L'Jarius Sneed or Trent McDuffie traveling with him, and L'Jarius Sneed gave up his first touchdown of the whole season last week on what had to be the absolute perfect throw that 99.9% of the time doesn't happen. If they can continue to play the way they've been playing and lock down that passing game like that, I think that we see the Chiefs put themselves in a situation to win. Do I think that they can win? I mean, yeah, the Chiefs fan in me says yeah, but I mean, this is very much a 50-50 game. Like I said, it's an AFC Championship game, so I mean, you can't really act like Baltimore's not a good team, if not even the better team on paper. But that's it. Sometimes the better team doesn't always win. It's the team that's more composed and maybe even has the experience. So I think just if they can contain Lamar, can continue to play defense like they have, especially in the passing game. I mean, Baltimore's very much a run-heavy offense. Like, they're going to run. That's been KC's kind of Achilles heel all year, but it's never seemed to be enough of an issue to lose them a game. Maybe that's been masked by the fact that the offense has sucked in times and, put the opposing team on the 20-yard line instantly. But, if they can do that, they at least put themselves in a situation to win. Then it comes down to, offensively, can they protect the football? Literally both postseason games, we have not seen an interception from Mahomes. Are really a bunch of stupid drops, or a bunch of stupid.
They're
turnovers.
due. They're due.
Knock on wood, man.
Pick six to end the game.
It might be due, but
it.
I mean, yeah, it might be due. We've obviously saw 17 weeks of it, but for whatever reason, once it came to playoff time, we've seen a totally different approach to the offense, and you've seen guys that haven't stepped up all year step up. Could that all come crashing down? Sure. But I think the experience and just the fact that they were able to turn it around in just these 2 games here goes to show you that, being composed and being in those moments before gives you somewhat of a competitive advantage. What exactly that is, I don't know if that's definable, but it certainly is a thing. And I do think that will be somewhat of a factor. One, with this is Lamar's first AFC Championship game. He's certainly got the pressure to get to a Super Bowl. They certainly that team wants to get there just as much as KC does. So it is going to come down to who can be the most composed team and not shoot themselves in the foot. And then the other key matchup, I think, they got to continue to feed Pacheco. That's kind of goes without saying, and that's definitely what they've been doing. Yeah, that's what I tell people in Dungus. For this to be a Mahomes' statistically worst year of his career, and they lead the league in drops, and I think lose 3 games at home and still make it to the AFC Championship game. Like, you can't really be too upset as a Chiefs fan. But yeah, they do need to grossly overhaul the wide receiver room, and maybe this game will kind of be the driving point of that. Who knows? Because I do think it's kind of a teetering rock with that stuff on, who shows up or not. Because really, the whole year it's been Rashee Rice, who also is a rookie, and I've said multiple times, like, it's never a good thing to be relying on a rookie because it's great when they show up, but you can't really knock them if they don't. Because at some point, a moment, I guess that's how you figure out if you got an elite player or not, because at some point the moment's either going to be too big or they're going to be bigger than the moment. So far he's been bigger than the moment, but so we'll see about that. But also I think we need to see Kelsey. I think Baltimore is I think first in the league in terms of passing rate given up to tight ends, so certainly going to be a tough matchup. But we have seen them definitely use him in more of the traditional Kelsey way in these playoffs. And he's going to have to come up big with a few catches to at least, keep them in this game and keep them moving like they moved the ball this last week. So, really, like, I think overall though, it just, comes down to who's the most composed once we get into that fourth quarter, and who's not making mistakes to shoot themselves in the foot and put the opposing team in a favorable spot. I ultimately am predicting a Chiefs win. I decided to be fun though and say they're going to win 23-20 in overtime.
That is a very great prediction. That's kind of where I'm feeling this game is going to go. This game's going to be a very defensive battle. You just mentioned it. The Chiefs give up. The Ravens give up the least amount of yards to tight ends, like you said.
We got Swift on our side, man.
That was a great comment. You do have the Swiftie fandom on your side, so that is. I feel like that's even more of a reason most of us want the Chiefs to lose. So we don't see Swift at the Super Bowl. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be a defensive game. I think it's going to be, like you said, a matter of who turns it over less or who doesn't turn it over at all. I'm predicting this game is going to be like 27-24, 24-20-21, something like that. It'll definitely be a 3-point game, something very, very close. Take Chiefs 3.5. The fact that it's that's crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I said go to that overtime at 20 just because the Ravens have not given up more than 20 points at home. So I tried to at least use some facts on my side. One thing I did forget to talk
facts
about.
on your side, so you whoop it out right at the very end of the season, you smug schmuck. Screw you. Throw out facts, and when you say, I threw out some facts. I threw out some facts. You've been smug all year, you bastard. So hey,
I have not. Hey, I was way more mild this year than last year.
Just because I've been giving it to this kid, don't think I forgot about you, smugster. So don't worry about it. I've gotten my chops in on him.
There you
I
go.
don't need you, you bastard. So there.
I did fail to mention, though, that it does look like left guard Joe Tooney's not going to be playing in this game because he did suffer a I think he just had, it wasn't a total torn pec. I think it was a pec strain, but that stuff sucks nonetheless. So that's certainly something to watch because Baltimore was, even though they didn't really get too much pressure on Stroud last week, they were the number one team in the league in terms of sacks and pressure. So, you got to see the O-line play the same way they did against Buffalo because Buffalo was third or fourth in the league in those things, and they didn't give up any sacks.
Who's your backup?
Probably be Nick Allegretti, who has at least been around for a long time. He has starting experience. He's kind of the sixth man, and he usually plays in games. So I'd say it's either going to be him or rookie Wanye Morris, who would also kind of be playing out of position. But those are the only two that have in-game experience. And I don't think that you could just put someone else out there that hasn't really done much this year. And I think in the sake of keeping things consistent and hoping that, you're going to have somewhat of a hitch because dude's like all world left guard. I think he's probably right behind Quentin Nelson for best left guard in the NFL. So, there's definitely going to be a hitch when you lose a guy like that, but you just got to hope that you can plug in someone who's at least been getting game reps and has the experience of making calls and knowing, what protections are, what the calls are to change protections. And then you can kind of minimize those hitches.
All right. First off, we got to give it to Allegretti. Allegretti, a good Paisan boy. A good Paisan boy. Allegretti. It sounds like something you put on your spaghetti. You gotta have the Romano with the ricotta and Allegretti.
I do not mean Ben Powersman Dungus. He might be paid like he's good. That doesn't mean that he is. He's like McGlinchey.
Oh, God.
Oh, man. I had to throw that name out there.
I had
Alex,
to.
that's not right. Thanks. But that's funny.
The Gabagool.
I actually have this game going a little differently. I think that this is kind of the game where regression kind of takes in my eyes. I know you don't want to hear that, but it's just kind of what my take is. You played a really kind of tough game against the Bills. You got a left guard who's out. Your quarterback hasn't really played the way that he has been these past two games. Now, Mahomes has the ability to rise to the moment, so you have that going for you. But at the end of the day, your wide receivers played all world last game when they've been playing, like they deserve to be taken behind a barn and shot most of the season.
Says the Broncos fan with the analogy there, or the simile, whatever the hell it is, about shooting animals. Just saying.
And
there you go, Rich. I got you now too. So screw you. I've gotten everybody at least once tonight.
Are you done yet? Great.
Rep,
so
I need you to elaborate.
So basically,
with all due respect.
Yeah, I'm sure. But anyways, my whole point is I'm not touting my roster on the Broncos as being great. I never have, in fact.
Take my strong hand.
Exactly. But my point is that we've seen some unique things from the Chiefs the last two games where they have elevated their play. Now, if they can continue that, then I think that the game's going to probably go thereabouts where you guys had those scores. If it plays out the way I think it's going to, I think this is going to be about a 10-point game in favor of the Ravens. And that's going to be in large part because I see either a pick six or a pick brought back to like the 3 or 5 or something like that.
I'm down.
And then a touchdown off of a turnover. I see something like that taking place. Mahomes is due for something like that. He hasn't had something like that so far in the postseason. So that's kind of my general take on that. And then I also just think that the Ravens are a very, very well-rounded team. They just have all of these unique pieces that match up very well against the Chiefs. It's a fact.
No, yeah, they have the most athletic linebackers in Queen and Smith.
Roquan.
They have Kyle Hamilton's quietly becoming one of the better safeties in the league. Like Marlon Humphrey's a solid corner. They definitely have the pieces on defense. I don't disagree with you because like I said, it could be regular season offense that turns the ball over and puts Baltimore, on their 20. And if that happens one time in this game, they pretty much shot their chances of winning, because this is not a team that can overcome making multiple mistakes. Clearly showed that in the regular season in 3 to 4 games. And you especially can't play like that in the postseason. So, we fortunately have not seen them do that yet. Because they are one of 2 remaining AFC teams. But yeah, it could happen. I don't disagree with that. The Chiefs fan in me is just not gonna flat out predict that.
Because you're too smug to admit it.
If I was smug, I'd just ignore it completely, or not let you share your point.
Yeah.
So
the point is that you don't want to even think that's a possibility in fear of willing it into existence, or even thinking it into existence is, I think, the real answer there. Fair enough. So I think we've all kind of.
Oh, hell no! I haven't even begun to talk about the game, you bastard. You just.
Well, you've spoken quite a bit.
Over me. You gloss over me again. I'll keep it kind of short.
Okay? This is true, Patriot.
I think a lot of things actually are going to happen. I think Mahomes is going to do something stupid. I think that the Ravens are going to get points off of it. I think that Tucker won't miss field goals like the second coming of Scott Norwood occurred last week. Okay, it was a
rerun,
right out, right to the right. Except there wasn't helicopters over the stadium, as they said was the reason why. That was on his own. It was the wind. But I will say this. I think it's going to be close, like they said, because for some reason I can't stand it when the Smugs are in the AFC Championship game again. I called it last week. I was correct. And again,
six straight years, actually.
Okay, there you go.
It's a little more than again.
Yeah. But again,
you're in Mission Impossible territory now.
That screw you, Mr. Smug. There you go. But I think it's gonna be a closer game. The only reason, and I was picked. Actually, this is a split call. If the Chiefs can do everything that they wanted to, even with the mistakes that I think Mahomes is going to do, I think it's going to still be close. If the Chiefs can overcome the officiating of Sean Smith, and please don't forget how the white hat and the crew can interfere in that game, because we have an expert. Not me, Rob, but I appreciate you pointing at me. But the fact that Ref Guru knows these things. And I do a show with him, so I appreciate that. That's for you, Ref. He was pointing at you through me. Okay, he was pointing at you, Ref. But if they can overcome Sean Smith and the crew, I think Kansas City goes in. What I don't know is when Taylor Swift started going out with Travis Kelce, because I think it was after the graphic artist made the color scheme for the Super Bowl, because that was done like a year or so ago before Travis Swiftie was going out with Taylor Kelce. And I know I screwed it up deliberately. That's just the way it is. And I think that really...
I'm not going to fight you on that.
That plays a part in it, okay? If the graphic artist would have known that, the Swifties were being there, because I know for a fact the NFL wants to have more shots of that blonde, skinny on the show, and they can't get enough of it, okay? So that's why I said if the Chiefs can overcome the officiating, they will be back in the Super Bowl. If they can't, then we're going to get the color scheme at least correct in the AFC, with the Ravens purple being there. And I know that that's a wishy-washy thing, and I'm going to be watching the game just to find out what happens. Does Mahomes and Kelsey regress? Is that left guard? It's the left guard that's out, right?
Yeah, Tony.
Yeah.
Tooney.
Not
Tony.
Oh, no.
Tooney.
Tony's the guy that lines off
Tony's
offside,
also
you
out.
schmuck. Okay?
Yeah, I know.
Get it
Tony's
right.
out.
It's your own team. It's your own team. Get it right.
Yeah, I corrected it.
Okay,
I mean,
got it.
they are grossly similar. So
Yeah, but Smug, if you can do that, if you can overcome the refs, you got it. Because the NFL wants some more shot of that blonde. Okay, I'll just say that. But if Sean Smith has his way, it's going to be a fugly day, and the shots that you will see of that will be ones like she had on Christmas. And those were wonderful shots. Those were wonderful shots of Swifty and Mahomes' wife. Oh, they got beat on Christmas. That's what it's going to be. And I know that, like I said, wishy-washy. Rich, go ahead, sir. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, so I think it's just gonna be a really interesting game because there's a few moving parts, and frankly, the Chiefs have put out two different products on the field this year.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this such an interesting game is that we've seen the upper echelon of those products the last two games. And now the question is, can they maintain that coming into this game? And I think that's going to be the real question. It comes down to that 100%. So,
and I mean,
anyway.
that's been the question of the whole playoffs. But once the games got to where they fully mattered and it was win or go home, I mean, you've seen the polar opposite approach in just what they do with the football, the choices Mahomes makes with it, and just the overall play calling. So, I mean, we'll see if they continue to progress with that or not. But I do think it's going to be a fireworks game, like DZ just said.
I think the big thing, just one last point on that game, I think this is going to be a very big telling game of who can run the ball and who can possess the ball more. I think we're going to be seeing a lot more running from these two teams than we'll see throwing. And we really won't see that much throwing until the
I've asked him for his ID. He won't show it to me. I'm the bouncer on the show, and the kid won't show me his friggin' ID. That's all I'm saying. I got you, Georgia. I said it again. Go ahead, Robert.
Just that. I think it's going to be a big time run game. It's going to be who can possess the ball more, who can, and like we said earlier, whoever commits the least amount of mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Get your popcorn ready.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Well, guys, I think that's about going to do it for the show today. We covered a lot of different topics, and I do think that we're going to start getting more news coming out about coaches and changes and things like that. Now that all of those the new staff and whatnot has all been solidified. Are you all right over there, Captain?
Hey, I'm just feeling myself, just like that video I put up on Instagram during the Patriots game.
That's what Patriot paid that $5 for. Message Cat private said, "Kiss your steps."
Yeah, that's funny.
Hey, it was on TV on Fox. It wasn't bad. Bad.
So with that in mind, guys, we will love you and leave you for this week on the Wild Wild West podcast, where the West Side is the best side. And until next week, peace.
Lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what? This is my lifestyle. Wait a minute,